The fire has almost burned out. Orange embers pulse beneath a layer of gray ash while cold wind slips between scattered trees. A woman quietly places another branch onto the coals. Beside her, two children sleep under stitched animal hides, their breathing slow, but uneven. At the edge of the camp, a tired hunter grips a sharpened spear and stares into the darkness, as distant branches crack somewhere beyond the light. For most of human history, night did not belong to us. It belonged to creatures that could smell farther, hear better, and move through darkness with effortless confidence. Every sunset forced our ancestors into a dangerous gamble: stay alive until morning. Scientists believe survival was rarely about defeating predators. More often, it depended on convincing them that attacking simply was not worth the risk. But if humans were among the weakest animals after sunset, why did that calculation begin to change? A leopard pauses on a fallen log, lifting its head as the wind shifts. It sniffs the air, circles slowly, then freezes. Across a small clearing, faint smoke rises above a cluster of sleeping figures. No one is moving. No weapons are raised. No voices disturb the silence. Yet the cat quietly steps backward, disappears into tall grass, and resumes hunting elsewhere. To us, a sleeping human seems defenseless. To a predator, the decision is far more complicated. Every chase burns precious energy. Every injury can become a death sentence. A broken tooth, a torn shoulder, or a damaged eye may mean weeks without food. Researchers studying large carnivores suggest that survival often favors caution over confidence. The safest meal is usually the familiar one, not the mysterious shape carrying thousands of generations of unpredictable history. Yet smoke alone could not explain this hesitation. The flames rise again, sending sparks into the black sky. One hunter feeds dry branches into the fire, while another drags fresh wood closer before dawn. An older woman slowly turns strips of meat above glowing coals, as children wake and gather near the warmth. Beyond the circle of light, dozens of unseen eyes may be watching, without ever revealing themselves. Fire offered heat, light, and cooked food, but scientists believe its greatest gift may have been something less obvious: time. Instead of retreating into darkness each evening, humans extended their waking hours. Families repaired tools. Elders shared knowledge. Watchers remained alert while others rested. For predators, the edge of a human camp became increasingly difficult to understand. Light flickered unpredictably. Smoke carried unfamiliar scents. Shadows moved in unusual ways. Then something even stranger began shaping the relationship between humans and the night. Not fire itself, but the people gathered around it. The youngest child suddenly stirs, startled by a distant howl. Before the sound can fade, an older man opens his eyes and quietly sits upright. Across the camp, another adult adds fresh wood to the fire, while a hunter slowly walks the edge of the clearing, scanning the darkness without speaking. No alarm is shouted. No one runs. The camp simply wakes, in pieces. Scientists believe early humans rarely relied on a single watchman. Instead, natural sleep cycles may have created overlapping moments of awareness. Some people entered lighter sleep while others rested more deeply, allowing unusual sounds, unfamiliar smells, or sudden movement to ripple through the group long before everyone was fully awake. For a predator hiding beyond the trees, this created a frustrating problem. The quiet figures beside the fire were never completely unconscious. At almost any moment, someone could stand, shout, or throw a burning branch into the darkness. But shared vigilance was only one layer of protection. Something even older had already begun changing how predators reacted to our species. A young wolf stops beside a narrow game trail and lowers its nose to the ground. It follows the scent for several steps before lifting its head toward distant smoke drifting through the forest. Its ears twitch. After a long pause, it turns away, choosing the tracks of deer that crossed the valley only minutes earlier. The wolf has never fought a human. Its parents may never have fought one either. Yet researchers studying predator behavior suggest that animals do not begin every decision with a blank slate. Across countless generations, individuals that avoided dangerous encounters were simply more likely to survive and leave offspring. This does not mean predators carry detailed memories of ancient humans. Instead, natural selection gradually favored caution whenever unfamiliar signals hinted at unusual danger. The lesson was never consciously taught. It was written slowly, through survival itself. Then climate changed. Landscapes shifted, and humans carried this invisible reputation far beyond a single forest. Sheets of ice crept across northern valleys, while dry grasslands stretched where forests had once stood. Families bundled children in animal hides, lifted woven packs onto their backs, and crossed frozen rivers in search of food. Days became weeks. Weeks became seasons. Wherever people settled, smoke eventually rose into another unfamiliar horizon. As humans spread into new environments, they encountered predators that had never seen them before. Scientists suggest these first meetings were filled with uncertainty on both sides. Curious carnivores approached cautiously. Human groups gathered together, raised spears, fed their fires, and defended one another whenever danger came too close. Generation after generation, similar encounters repeated across continents. Not every confrontation ended peacefully, and many people undoubtedly lost their lives. But each successful defense reinforced the same message. Humans were unpredictable, cooperative, and surprisingly expensive to attack. This should have made us irresistible targets during sleep. Instead, the opposite pattern began to emerge. A lion steps out of tall grass and freezes at the edge of a dimly lit camp. The fire has weakened, but it has not died. A half-burned branch still crackles as a man suddenly rises from the ground, gripping a stone-tipped spear. Another figure follows, then another. Within seconds, silhouettes multiply around the glowing center, forming a loose circle of standing bodies and shifting shadows. The lion does not move forward. It studies, it waits, then it slowly retreats, vanishing back into the grass without a sound. Scientists suggest that for large predators, hunting is never just about hunger. It is a calculation of injury risk. A single broken bone or deep wound can end a predator's entire future. Attacking an uncertain group of humans, especially one capable of waking instantly, can turn a meal into a fatal mistake. But this logic alone cannot explain why avoidance became so consistent across continents and species. Something deeper was shaping behavior on both sides of the encounter. Wind pushes smoke across a valley as embers glow like scattered stars on the ground. A woman kneels beside the fire, shielding it with her hands while blowing gently to keep it alive. Nearby, a man sharpens a wooden spear under flickering light. Children sit close, eyes half closed, drifting between sleep and wakefulness. To humans, fire was survival, warmth, cooking, protection. But to most animals, fire was not something to understand. It was something to avoid. Researchers believe that fear of fire is deeply embedded in many species, not because of learned experience alone, but because fire historically marked uncontrollable danger. Forest burns, collapsing habitats, and sudden death. Anything associated with flame became a warning system. For predators approaching human camps, fire created an invisible boundary, not a wall they could see, but a rule they rarely crossed. Yet even fire could not fully explain what was happening at the edge of human sleep. A jaguar moves silently along a riverbank, stopping whenever the wind shifts. On the opposite side, a sleeping human lies partially covered by cloth and leaves. The jaguar watches for several minutes, then turns away, choosing instead to hunt a capybara that surfaced near the water's edge. From a predator's perspective, hunting is a precision system. Prey animals behave in predictable patterns, flight, herd movement, escape angles. But humans do not fit cleanly into that system. Even when still, their shape carries uncertainty. Even in sleep, their group structure suggests coordination, response, and collective defense. Scientists studying predator decision-making suggest that unpredictability alone can be enough to deter an attack. When the outcome of a hunt becomes too uncertain, even a successful predator may choose to walk away. But unpredictability is only part of the equation. Because in some environments, predators did not simply avoid humans, they actively learned to leave entire regions behind. A wounded leopard limps through dry brush, its breathing shallow, ribs visible under thinning fur. It pauses near a human camp, drawn not by curiosity, but by necessity. The fire is weak, the group is smaller than before, and the usual prey has disappeared from the surrounding land. For several seconds, the animal does not retreat. It watches. It evaluates. Then it turns away slowly, vanishing into the dust. In extreme conditions, the rules of avoidance begin to collapse. Scientists note that predators under stress, injury, starvation, or habitat loss sometimes take risks they would normally avoid. The calculation changes when survival becomes urgent enough to outweigh fear. This is where rare attacks on sleeping humans often emerge, not from dominance but from desperation, not from preference but from collapse of options. But something more subtle was happening across ecosystems where humans were present. A dense forest slowly gives way to silence. Bird calls fade first, then the rustle of small mammals disappears. Even insects seem less active near the edge of a human settlement. A herd of deer hesitates at a distance, then turns away, choosing a longer path around the invisible boundary of human activity. Ecologists studying modern wildlife patterns have observed a strange phenomenon. Predators often avoid human zones so consistently that it reshapes the entire ecosystem. When large carnivores step back, prey populations expand. When mid-level predators retreat, smaller animals multiply in unexpected ways. This is not just fear at the top of the food chain. It is a cascade of avoidance, spreading through layers of life like a ripple through water. But the most surprising effect was not ecological, it was behavioral, and it extended into the night itself. Inside a small camp, the fire burns lower than before. Most people are asleep, but one figure remains half awake, adjusting the embers. Another shifts suddenly, reacting to a sound no one else notices. Somewhere beyond the trees, a predator pauses, listening to the irregular rhythm of human movement, then turns away. Over time, animals near human settlements began to recognize patterns: flickering light that never fully disappears, intermittent movement during sleep, sudden bursts of noise, and group-wide responses to disturbance. What began as isolated encounters gradually became a learned expectation. Scientists suggest that this repeated exposure may have shaped avoidance behavior more strongly than any single factor, not because humans were the strongest, but because they were the least predictable system in the landscape. And yet, even this explanation still leaves one question unresolved. Why did humans survive at night at all, when every advantage seemed to belong elsewhere? A newborn cries beside a fading fire as cold wind moves through the camp. A mother pulls the child closer, shielding it with her body while another adult quietly scans the darkness beyond the light. The night feels unchanged, silent, vast, indifferent. But inside the child's body, something far older is already in motion. Scientists studying human evolution suggest that survival behaviors are not only learned, but partially inherited through biology shaped over thousands of generations. Sleep patterns that briefly wake us at unfamiliar sounds, stress responses that react instantly to sudden movement, group behavior that pulls individuals together when danger appears. None of this is memory in the traditional sense. It is pattern, written slowly through countless nights where only the most responsive, most alert, and most cooperative groups survived until dawn. But if survival was written into us, then what exactly was being written back into the world we lived in? A final ember collapses into ash. The camp is quiet now, but not empty. Figures still shift faintly in sleep. A man turns his head. A child whispers without waking. Somewhere beyond the trees, an unseen predator pauses, then chooses another direction entirely. The forest remains dangerous, but it no longer behaves the same way it once did. Scientists describe this as an ecological feedback loop. As humans expanded, predators adapted not just to our bodies, but to our presence, our fire, our noise, and our unpredictable group behavior. Over time, avoidance became the safest strategy, not because humans were invincible, but because engaging with them carried too many unknowns. This is the paradox. A species physically fragile in isolation became behaviorally dangerous in groups, not through strength alone, but through accumulated risk, memory, and consequence written into the landscape itself. And so the night changed. Not because it became less dangerous, but because something within it learned a new rule. Some prey are not worth the cost of the hunt.